Going to take you live now to Israel and listen into a press conference being given by government spokesperson Avi Heinemann.
Reports coming out from unnamed sources on the American side. I can refer you to statements made this morning by the IDF Chief of Staff. I could refer you back to the Americans if they indeed have or are making these statements. I personally, as the Israeli government, do not have anything to add on these reports.
Thank you. Follow-up question from Joel. The dictionary defines treachery as a violation of allegiance of faith or confidence. Would you describe the withholding of arms in wartime from an ally as a form of treachery?
Joel, again, I appreciate that was the same question asked in a different way, and my response remains the same.
Thank you. Question from Andrew Connell of Sky. The UN has told us this afternoon that they are yet to see any aid come through the Kerem Shalom crossing on the Gaza side. You say it has reopened. Can you tell us when aid will be passing through the crossing into Gaza?
So again, this is the second time that Hamas has directly shot the Kerem Shalom crossing from Rafah in an attempt to ensure that the main aid artery to Gaza is shut down. Well, that's now happened twice. 4 Israeli soldiers were killed the first time. And I can report, as I did, that the opening, it is open, but specifics of trucks, when and how they're going in can be discussed with COGAT that coordinates that activity directly. And I would ask the UN why day in and day out there is so much surplus on the Gaza side of Kerem Shalom that is not being distributed.
Thank you. Question from Lior Soroka at The Washington Post. Can you confirm that Netanyahu and Burns meeting has ended?
I cannot confirm that. The Prime Minister's office will release a statement if needed, when appropriate.
Thank you. Second question from David Clement at the News Forum in Canada. British MPs were briefed in a committee hearing that the best estimate on the civilian to combatant casualty ratio in the war against Hamas is 1-to-1. Is there any accuracy in that claim?
I can tell you that we are still firmly in the fog of war. I know my Prime Minister has said in the past that it's potentially even better than 1-to-1. One thing that we know for sure, is that Israel at the moment appears to be operating in a way unprecedented, in a way that is unprecedented to avoid civilian casualties. And we will continue to do that for the sake of international law, and also because it's part of the very fabric of our ethos as a Jewish people in the one and only Jewish state, to avoid civilian casualties and go after those terrorists that seek our absolute destruction.
Thank you. Third question from Joel Pollack at Breitbart News. Does Israel's control of the Rafah crossing and Philadelphia route give Israel greater flexibility to reach a hostage deal with Hamas?
So Joel, question. We will continue to keep up the military pressure on Hamas. We know from the last hostage release that we needed both the military pressure and the diplomatic channel. Ultimately, Hamas was brought down to their knees, begging pleas for a bit of respite, for a break in the fighting, so they could release around half of the hostages. We are continuing on our mission in Rafah as part of the war aims, because the last four battalions of Hamas are there. We will destroy them. But certainly that pressure is up on Hamas. We can see that they feel it. And we hope, pray, and will do everything in our power militarily and diplomatically to bring home the 132 Israeli hostages, men, women, children, a baby, a crime against humanity. as soon as humanly possible.
Avi Hyman.
Thank you. Follow-up question from Andrew Connell at Sky. On Kerem Shalom, how can the IDF say that Kerem Shalom is open if the UN is saying no aid is getting through onto the Gaza side?
So again, I've referred you to COGAT that coordinates the transfer of aid into Gaza. I'm not going to get into the intricacies of what's open and what has transferred yet and what the UN has said when we know that the UN has worked in cahoots with Hamas throughout this war.
Thank you. That was the last question.
Thank you very
There is
much.
one more question.
Oh,
Excuse
sorry.
me. One more question from Lauren Freyer at NPR. Can you give us an update on the ceasefire talks in Cairo? Any progress? What are the sticking points and how long will an Israeli team stay there?
So I'm sure you can appreciate that any talk of hostage negotiations are extremely sensitive. Lives literally hang on in the balance. So we're not going to be negotiating via the media. The Prime Minister has sent his delegation there with clear instructions to do their utmost to reach a deal within a framework that is acceptable to Israel. Obviously, there can be no.
That is Avi Hyman there. He is the Israeli government spokesperson. Just taking a question there about those ceasefire talks that we know are happening in Cairo at the moment. Yolanda Nal, our correspondent, was saying earlier that she has heard no update from those talks, and he also just said that they would not be discussing the talks with the media until they had something clearer to say. Also just talking about the Kerem Shalom crossing, the UN saying today, Israel says it's opened that crossing, but they say no aid has actually got through there yet. He was questioned on that and also just what is happening in terms of humanitarian aid getting in.